Keanu Reeves was quietly enjoying a moment of calm at a McDonald's in Los Angeles when a 5-year-old boy, clutching a broken toy car, approached him and whispered something in his ear. In an instant, Keanu's expression changed. He turned pale and immediately dialed 911. What happens next is sure to touch your heart. Before we continue this story, please share where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow we have another special tale just for you. It was a radiant, sun-drenched afternoon in Los Angeles, a day when every corner of the city shimmered with possibility. The sky stretched in a flawless expanse of blue, interrupted only by a few delicate, wispy clouds drifting slowly across the horizon. Sunlight poured in golden streams, warming the iconic Hollywood sign and giving the urban landscape an almost magical quality. In that light, even the most ordinary scene felt extraordinary. Keanu Reeves, known for his simplicity and understated charisma, was driving through the city in a modest car. Today, his destination was a charity event for underprivileged children, a cause that stirred something deep within him. After spending several hours engaging with the kids, sharing laughter and small victories, his heart was full despite the tiredness tugging at his limbs. As he left the event, a gentle, calm smile spread across his face, a silent tribute to the power of selfless giving and genuine human connection. Instead of heading home immediately or dining at a high-end restaurant, Keanu chose a surprising detour that promised simplicity and solace. He steered his car into the parking lot of a busy McDonald's along a bustling avenue. Sometimes, it's the simplest pleasures that remind us who we really are, he thought. In this unassuming haven, far from the glare of media cameras and the relentless pressures of fame, he sought refuge. The restaurant's neon sign, flashing in the afternoon light, invited everyday people inside, a place where ordinary moments unfolded without pretense. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with the familiar sounds of everyday life. Families gathered around tables, their laughter mingling with the hum of conversation. Children played in a small indoor playground while staff called out orders in a rhythmic cadence. The air was rich with the aroma of freshly fried fries and sizzling burgers, a scent that evoked warm memories of childhood and simpler times. Here, amidst the clatter of dishes and friendly chatter, Keanu found himself blending in as just another patron, a man grateful for a pause in his otherwise extraordinary life. He quietly ordered his meal and settled into a secluded corner, deliberately switching off his phone to escape the endless digital noise and simply savor the moment. No sooner had Keanu taken his seat than he noticed a young boy at a nearby table. The child's blonde hair fell in gentle disarray, and he wore a slightly faded blue shirt that hinted at many adventures. In his small hands, he cradled a broken toy car, its chipped paint and worn edges telling silent stories of cherished memories. The boy's eyes, wide with a mixture of wonder and apprehension, were fixed intently on Keanu, as if hoping for a kind word or a comforting smile. For a moment, Keanu allowed a gentle smile to form, moved by the child's vulnerable intensity. Yet, even as he resumed his meal, the persistent gaze of the boy stirred something deep within him, a quiet plea for understanding and help. The boy's fixation was not lost on Keanu. It carried an unspoken narrative of longing and perhaps even fear. At the same table, an imposing figure in a pristine suit sat with an air of authority. His rigid posture and constant attention to his phone contrasted sharply with the child's fragile presence. Every so often, the man's disapproving glances drifted toward the boy, hinting at an underlying tension that would soon demand attention. As the minutes passed, the atmosphere at the table grew increasingly charged. The boy's restlessness was evident. He fidgeted in his seat and shifted his gaze between Keanu and the imposing man. Finally, with a quiet resolve, the boy slid from his chair. Clutching the broken toy car tightly as if it were a shield against the uncertainties of the world, he began his tentative journey toward Keanu's table. With each cautious step, the ambient murmur of the restaurant seemed to fade, leaving only a sense of anticipation in the air. Keanu, setting aside his half-eaten burger, turned fully toward the approaching child. The boy stopped at his side, his eyes shimmering with a complex mix of fear, determination, and fragile hope, a look that belied his tender age. Leaning close so his soft voice could be heard, the boy whispered, "I can't talk here. He'll get mad." The single word, "he," resonated ominously, suggesting a presence that threatened the child's fragile peace. In that moment, the stage was set for an encounter that would ripple through the lives of everyone present. Before Keanu could gently probe for more information, the imposing man at the table abruptly shifted his attention. This man, later identified as Mr. Harris, fixed his steely gaze on Keanu. Rising slowly, he adjusted his suit jacket with meticulous care and began moving toward the trio. Each deliberate step exuded control and an undercurrent of menace, as though he were determined to silence any deviation from his plan. Despite the interruption, Keanu remained calm and measured. He sensed immediately that this encounter was no random coincidence. It was a moment fraught with consequences. The boy, now softly identified as Ethan from his hesitant reply, clutched his broken toy car as if it were his only defense. Harris's tone was cool yet laced with condescension as he addressed Keanu. "Sorry about this, Reeves. Ethan can be a bit overly curious at times. I hope he hasn't been bothering you." There was an unmistakable edge to his words, one that hinted at deeper tensions beneath the surface. Keanu's response was gentle but firm. "Actually, he was just showing me his toy car. It's clear he cares for it very much." For an instant, Harris's eyes narrowed in disapproval before he masked his reaction with a polite smile, his control now visibly slipping. Without missing a beat, Harris extended his hand toward Ethan and said evenly, "Come on, Ethan, it's time for us to go." But the child, with a subtle act of defiance, stepped back and nestled closer to Keanu. This small gesture of resistance seemed to unsettle Harris further. His controlled demeanor flickered as a low sigh of discontent escaped him. "I appreciate you keeping him entertained, but we have somewhere to be," he insisted, reaching out once again in a bid to regain control. In response, Keanu gently placed his hand on Harris's shoulder and said, "Commitments can wait. I think Ethan needs a moment. He has something important to share about his toy car." His tone was both warm and resolute, silently promising the child that his voice mattered. At that precise moment, a waitress, whose eyes had been following the unfolding drama with quiet concern, approached the table carrying a tray. "Is everything okay here?" she inquired softly, her glance shifting between the tense man and the young boy. Keanu offered a reassuring smile and replied, "It's fine, thank you. Could you bring Ethan a drink? He looks like he could use a little refreshment." The waitress nodded and moved away, leaving behind a momentary calm as Keanu discreetly retrieved his phone to send a cautious message to an emergency contact. Almost immediately, Harris noticed Keanu's phone and, in a low, measured tone, declared, "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this has gone far enough." Unruffled by the challenge, Keanu calmly responded, "I'm just trying to help a boy who clearly needs someone to listen." Harris's face hardened further, and his voice dropped to a near whisper laden with threat. "I suggest you don't meddle in affairs where you're not wanted." Taking a steady breath, Keanu met Harris's challenging gaze. "If someone's hurt, then it's everyone's business, especially mine," he stated softly. For a brief moment, a flicker of vulnerability appeared in Harris's eyes before he quickly recovered his composure. "Very well," he replied curtly, as though conceding a temporary truce. "But I hope this doesn't take much longer." With that, Harris returned to his seat, resuming his tapping on the phone, his irritation simmering beneath a veneer of politeness. The lively chatter of the restaurant seemed to recede into a tense, expectant silence. A short while later, the same vigilant waitress reappeared with a discreet note. Keanu quickly read its contents. "The police are on their way." A mixture of relief and apprehension stirred within him. Help was near, yet the underlying danger remained unresolved. Keanu turned his attention back to Ethan and offered a soft, comforting smile. "It's okay, Ethan. You're safe now," he murmured gently, attempting to reassure the young boy whose eyes still held traces of fear. But before he could elaborate further, Harris interjected with impatience. "Why don't we all sit down for a moment? It seems like Ethan just needs a little time to breathe. Sometimes kids need to be heard." Although his tone was controlled, the urgency behind his words was unmistakable, a clear attempt to regain dominance over the unfolding situation. After a weighted pause, Harris reluctantly settled back into his seat. For several long moments, the trio, Keanu, Ethan, and Harris, sat together in strained silence. Harris's gaze frequently darted to his phone as if searching for guidance, while Ethan's eyes shifted uncertainly between the two men. In that charged quiet, every second seemed to stretch, and the tension in the room became almost palpable. Then, unexpectedly, Harris abruptly stood once again. With precise, rehearsed movements, he adjusted his suit jacket and muttered, "You have no idea what you're getting yourselves into." As he began to stride toward the exit, Keanu's heart pounded with a mix of concern and determination. Keanu watched as Harris paused near the entrance, slipping his hand into his jacket pocket to retrieve his phone. A few quick taps later, Harris rejoined the table, his face now clouded with tension and an unmistakable trace of worry. At that moment, the ever-vigilant waitress reappeared. Leaning in close, she whispered urgently, "The police are just a few minutes away." Keanu nodded silently, his eyes never leaving Harris, whose inner conflict was now evident. Breaking the charged silence with a dry, humorless laugh, Harris remarked, "You seem very interested in our conversation, Mr. Reeves." His tone carried a challenge, a subtle provocation meant to undermine Keanu's calm. Undeterred, Keanu replied evenly, "I'm simply trying to understand. Kids have vivid imaginations. They say exactly what they feel. Perhaps that's why Ethan is speaking so honestly." His measured tone was a quiet insistence on the importance of listening, no matter how small the voice. Harris leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the table as he added, "Then why don't we let Ethan decide? Ethan, do you want to leave now, or would you rather keep talking with our friend?" The question, posed with deliberate intensity, hung in the air, setting the stage for the child's crucial decision. Ethan's eyes flickered uncertainly between the two men as he hesitated. His small hand, trembling slightly, gripped the broken toy car even tighter, a silent plea for protection amid the adult tension swirling around him. After a long, waited pause that seemed to stretch the moment into eternity, the boy's voice finally emerged in a soft, almost inaudible whisper, "I want to stay here." That fragile declaration shifted the atmosphere noticeably. For a brief moment, Harris's expression darkened, but then he forced a smile and said, "Very well, but I hope this doesn't take much longer." Almost immediately, the vigilant waitress returned with another note. Keanu's eyes quickly scanned the message. "They're 2 minutes away. Hold tight." The stark reminder that time was running out sent a jolt of urgency through him. Determined to ensure Ethan's safety, Keanu redirected his inquiry with gentle insistence. "Ethan, you mentioned earlier that your mom is hurt. Do you know where she is right now?" At that very moment, as Ethan began to speak, Harris slammed his hand on the table with a force that silenced the room. "That's enough questions, Reeves. This is none of your business." Keanu turned slowly to face Harris, his tone calm yet resolute as he replied, "If she's hurt, then it's everyone's business, especially mine." Harris's eyes narrowed further as he leaned in, his voice dropping to a low, menacing warning. "I suggest you stop now. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The words hung in the air like a threat, yet Keanu stood his ground, undeterred. Stepping closer, Keanu positioned himself protectively between Harris and Ethan. "If you want to discuss this, we can do it civilly, or you can wait until the police arrive," he declared firmly. At that precise moment, the sound of approaching sirens heralded the arrival of 2 police cruisers at the restaurant's entrance. Uniformed officers, their expressions a mix of stern professionalism and quiet empathy, stepped out and began moving purposefully toward the table. Harris's posture immediately stiffened. Rising quickly, he adjusted his suit jacket and muttered, "You've made a big mistake," as he took a hesitant step toward the exit. But before he could leave, 2 officers, Officer Ramirez and Officer Vega, closed in, their presence poised to restore order. Officer Ramirez, a tall man with a commanding presence, addressed Harris firmly. "We received a call about a potential disturbance. Is everything okay here?" Harris forced a smile and replied, "Everything's fine, officer. There must have been some misunderstanding. I'm just here with my son, enjoying the day." His words, though polite, did little to mask the tension beneath. Before Harris could continue, Keanu interjected, "Officers, I think you should hear what Ethan has to say." Officer Ramirez knelt beside the young boy, while Officer Vega crouched so that she could meet his eyes on his level. "Hi there, I'm Officer Vega. What's your name?" she asked gently. Glancing up at Keanu for reassurance, the boy softly murmured, "Ethan." Officer Vega repeated his name kindly. "It's okay, Ethan. Can you tell us what's going on? We're here to help." Her tone was soothing and patient, inviting the child to share his truth. The atmosphere grew heavier as all eyes turned to Ethan, awaiting the answer that would change the course of the evening. Ethan's gaze shifted nervously between Officer Vega and Harris, whose expression had hardened into one of irritation and impatience. With a trembling voice that nonetheless carried a quiet determination, Ethan spoke, "He hurt my mom, and no one can help us." His words, simple yet powerful, fell into the hush of the room, leaving everyone momentarily stunned by their gravity. The silence that followed was profound, punctuated only by the steady breathing of those present. Officer Vega exchanged a concerned glance with Officer Ramirez, her eyes softening with empathy as she knelt beside Ethan once more. "You did the right thing by telling us," she said gently, offering a reassuring smile to the brave young boy. At that moment, Harris's patience finally snapped. "This is ridiculous. He's just a child making things up. My lawyer is going to love this," he snapped, attempting to push past the officers. But Officer Ramirez swiftly intervened, placing a firm hand on Harris's chest and halting him in his tracks. "Let's clear this up first, sir. Please stay where you are," he instructed, his tone leaving no room for argument. Officer Vega then turned her attention back to Ethan, her voice soft yet insistent. "Ethan, do you know where your mom is now? Is she at home?" The young boy, his eyes brimming with worry, nodded slowly as he replied, She can't get up." His words, laced with fear and uncertainty, tugged at the hearts of everyone listening. Keanu squeezed Ethan's shoulder gently, offering a quiet reassurance. "We believe you, Ethan. It's okay, we're here to help." His tone conveyed both determination and compassion, a promise that they would do everything in their power to make things right. Harris, meanwhile, scoffed bitterly. "This is absurd. You're really going to listen to a child over a responsible adult? I won't stand for this," he declared, his voice rising in anger. Officer Ramirez maintained his calm demeanor as he addressed Harris firmly. "Sir, based on what we've heard, we have sufficient cause to investigate. Please come with us." Anger flared in Harris's eyes as he attempted to retreat, but Officer Vega acted swiftly, grabbing his arm firmly while Officer Ramirez assisted in restraining him further. "Are you resisting a police order?" Officer Vega demanded as she secured handcuffs around him, her tone leaving no room for defiance. With Harris now under control and being led away by the officers, Keanu's focus returned entirely to Ethan. "Do you want to show me where your mom is?" he asked softly, his eyes full of concern. "We can go there right now." The young boy, clutching his broken toy car even tighter, a symbol of both his vulnerability and his determination, nodded slowly and whispered, "I just want her to be okay." Keanu's heart ached at the raw emotion in Ethan's voice. Every second mattered, and he knew that time was of the essence. Signaling to the officers, Keanu and Ethan were soon ushered into a police car. As the vehicle began its journey toward Ethan's modest home, Keanu did his best to keep the boy calm. He shared gentle stories about toy cars and small adventures, striving to replace fear with hope. "Did you know that toy cars are really easy to fix?" he said with a warm smile. "Once everything is over, we'll fix yours together." Though Ethan's smile was faint, his eyes held a glimmer of hope as he softly asked, "Do you think my mom is going to be okay?" Keanu replied with steady conviction, "We're going to do everything we can to make sure she is." The police car eventually pulled up in front of Ethan's modest home, a quiet dwelling that now seemed shrouded in an air of mystery and sorrow. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The street was eerily silent, and dark windows hinted at secrets behind drawn curtains. As the car came to a stop, Officer Ramirez quickly observed that the front door was slightly ajar, a small detail that spoke volumes of the turmoil within. "Stay here," he instructed in a firm tone as he and Officer Vega stepped out, drawing their weapons and approaching the house with careful caution. Keanu remained in the car with Ethan for a moment, his heart heavy with concern, before he too stepped out into the crisp morning air. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves, seemed amplified in the stillness that had settled over the neighborhood. The officers advanced slowly, their every step measured and deliberate. The house's exterior, marked by peeling paint and a sense of neglect, spoke silently of the hardships endured within. With a final exchanged glance that combined determination and empathy, they reached for the door, preparing to uncover the scene that lay beyond its fragile threshold. Inside the house, Chaos greeted the officers immediately. The living room was in disarray, furniture overturned, personal belongings scattered in disorganized piles, and signs of a struggle evident in every corner. The atmosphere was heavy with the remnants of fear and distress. As Officer Vega's flashlight swept across the room, it caught sight of Sarah, Ethan's mother, lying unconscious on the floor with a small cut on her head. Though her condition was alarming, the fact that she was alive provided a fragile glimmer of hope. Paramedics had already been called, and their distant voices could be heard as they hurriedly prepared for their arrival. In the midst of the turmoil, Officers Vega and Ramirez worked carefully, examining every detail for clues. Hidden in a bag that had been left behind in haste was a small, worn notebook. Its pages, filled with meticulous notes and disturbing plans, revealed that Harris had been monitoring Sarah and Ethan, controlling their movements and even plotting to abduct the boy and transport him far away. This evidence, damning in its detail, confirmed the severity of the crimes that had unfolded here. Every detail now spoke of a web of manipulation and cruelty that demanded swift justice. Outside, the chaos of the scene was juxtaposed against the calm efficiency of the arriving police officers. Harris, now handcuffed and led away in a police car, muttered threats under his breath as if the world should tremble at his name. His parting words, delivered in a low, menacing tone, promised that his influence was far from extinguished. But for Keanu, the only focus was ensuring that Sarah and Ethan were safe. Standing protectively next to Ethan, Keanu offered the boy gentle reassurances. "I'll stay with you until everything is resolved," he promised softly, his eyes reflecting the deep compassion he felt. As dawn broke over the horizon, soft light began to filter into the hospital where Sarah was rushed for treatment. In a quiet room filled with the steady beeping of monitors and the soft hum of medical equipment, Sarah lay under the watchful care of doctors who confirmed that, despite her injuries, she would recover with proper rest and attention. In that moment, hope began to take root amidst the lingering fear, a promise that even the deepest wounds could one day heal. Over the following hours, the hospital became a beacon of cautious optimism. Sarah, though weak and still reeling from her ordeal, was stabilized by attentive paramedics and caring medical staff. Keanu remained by her side as much as possible, his presence a silent vow of continued protection and support. Ethan, too, was a constant companion during this uncertain time, his small hand firmly grasping Keanu's as if to draw strength from the unwavering kindness offered to him. As doctors and nurses worked methodically to mend broken bones and ease painful injuries, the atmosphere in the room was one of quiet determination. Every beep of the monitor, every whispered word of encouragement from the medical team, served as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was light and the promise of healing. Keanu's steady presence, his gentle reassurances, and his willingness to act as both protector and friend helped to ease the tension that had gripped the family. In that tender interplay of care and compassion, Sarah slowly began to show signs of improvement, while Ethan's eyes, though still filled with worry, started to glimmer with a fragile hope for a better tomorrow. Days passed slowly, each one a measured step on the long road to recovery. Sarah was eventually discharged from the hospital, still fragile but buoyed by the kindness and support that had surrounded her. As she stepped out into the fresh air, the weight of recent events mingled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude. With tears glistening in her eyes, she turned to Keanu and whispered, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved our lives." Keanu, ever humble, replied softly, "I was simply in the right place at the right time. The real hero here is Ethan. It takes more courage to ask for help than to stay silent." His words were not meant to diminish his own role, but to honor the bravery of the young boy who had spoken up in a moment of vulnerability. In the days that followed, the story of that fateful afternoon began to ripple through the community. Local organizations took notice, and initiatives were launched to support victims of abuse and neglect. Keanu, inspired by the strength of the human spirit, lent his voice and resources to these causes, determined to ensure that no one would ever have to face such darkness alone. The impact of that day extended far beyond the walls of the hospital and the quiet streets of the neighborhood. Community centers, schools, and local media shared the story. A tale of bravery, resilience, and the transformative power of empathy. In neighborhoods where hope had once seemed scarce, the events now kindled a renewed commitment to care for one another. Keanu began to participate in local events, speaking about the importance of listening to those in need and the courage it takes to ask for help. His stories, delivered with quiet passion, resonated with audiences of all ages. Every word was imbued with the memory of that afternoon, a reminder that sometimes, the smallest voices can spark the greatest changes. The story of Ethan and Sarah became a symbol of resistance against injustice, a call to action for communities to stand together against abuse. In a touching ceremony organized by local authorities and support organizations, Ethan was recognized as a young hero. His bravery, though born of pain, had inspired many to believe in the power of compassion and unity. At the ceremony, Ethan received a special award honoring his courage and resilience. In a small, heartfelt moment on stage, he shyly accepted the accolade, his eyes glistening with both pride and lingering vulnerability. The audience, moved by his story, offered gentle applause and quiet encouragement, a powerful acknowledgement that even the smallest among us can be a force for change. Keanu, standing quietly at the side, felt a deep surge of admiration for the boy. When Ethan presented him with a drawing, a simple picture of a boy and a man holding hands, emblazoned with the words, "My hero," Keanu's heart swelled with emotion. "You were the real hero, Ethan," he said softly. "Asking for help takes more courage than you know." Inspired by the outpouring of support, Keanu dedicated himself further to advocacy work. He began collaborating with local organizations to raise awareness about domestic violence and the importance of community support. His efforts, driven by genuine care and a deep sense of responsibility, slowly began to change attitudes and bring people together in shared purpose. In the weeks and months that followed, the community's response to the tragedy evolved into a movement of hope and resilience. Keanu continued to visit Sarah and Ethan, ensuring that they received not only medical care but also emotional support. Regular check-ins, community fundraisers, and local events became part of a broader effort to build a network of care around those affected by abuse and neglect. The story of that fateful afternoon was retold in schools and community centers, serving as a poignant reminder that even in the face of darkness, acts of kindness and bravery can light the way to recovery. Each retelling carried the same message, that no one should ever be afraid to speak up, and that help is always within reach when we choose to listen with empathy and act with courage. Keanu's unwavering commitment to the cause helped transform individual tragedies into a collective call for justice and support, a legacy of hope that would continue to grow and inspire. As the sun set on another day in Los Angeles, the city seemed to hold its breath in quiet reflection. For Keanu, Sarah, Ethan, and all those touched by the events of that unforgettable afternoon, the journey toward healing was ongoing, a path marked by small victories and the steady power of human compassion. In the soft light of early evening, Keanu often reflected on the delicate balance between fate and free will. "I was in the right place at the right time," he would say, but it was Ethan's brave voice that sparked a change none of us could have foreseen. His words resonated deeply with those around him, reminding everyone that even in the midst of pain, hope could be found in the simplest acts of kindness. That day's events became a lasting legacy, one that would inspire continued efforts to support and uplift the vulnerable. And as the night fell over Los Angeles, the promise of tomorrow shone bright, a promise that every life, no matter how broken, held the potential to be mended through love, understanding, and unwavering courage.